We continue now with our weekly Fan and Press luncheons as we mix a little football with basketball. The JMU men's basketball Dukes, by the way, on the road today. JMU playing at Radford. That's a 7 o'clock tip-off this evening at the Dedman Center. So Coach Brady will not be with us today, but we are fortunate, of course, to have the women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks with us here. As since our last meeting here at O'Neill's, the Dukes have gone 2-0 with a win at home against Liberty. And then last night, as I like to say, they're at the very end of the plank, but they did an about-face and came up with a win over the Pirates of Hampton University in overtime. Coach, just kind of summarize what has been an interesting week coming back from the UCLA loss to beat Liberty, take a little break for Thanksgiving, and then get back at it Sunday night in Hampton.
Very eventful week, Kurt. I mean, it was a very good week. I learned a lot about our team. You know, it seems like the Liberty game was such a long time ago, but I thought we grew up in that basketball game, and we came out against a very strong Liberty team, which is going to give a lot of people fits, and we dominated pretty much throughout the basketball game in a fashion that I didn't know if we could attain. You know, the Friday previous, we got out muscled, out manned, out everything at the UCLA. And with a bunch of young kids and kids playing in more prominent roles, you never know how they're going to react. And in such a short turnaround, we came back on Monday night and we gave a tremendous effort against a very tough Liberty basketball team who has since gone on to, with 4 minutes to go in the game, they were tied with number 10, Ohio State, and ended up losing by 10. And then the following night, they played against number 14, Cal, and they lost by 5 points. You know, which goes to show you that's a very good win for us, the way that our kids did it. In the fashion they did it in. You know, it had some people step up. I thought Jasmine Wathme played tremendous during that game and really set the tone for us throughout. And it was a great win. And, you know, then you have a little bit of time off, and we gave the kids a day off to go home or with friends, or some of them came to my house for Thanksgiving. And we came back, and we had to go play against an opponent who is a very good opponent, who probably at the time or still is the best winless team in the country. And, you know, you look at their record, and I know my DNR guys skipped out of here, but they wanted to say that their team was 0-6, but they didn't say who they played and in what fashion they played it in. They played Washington State on the road, Oregon on the road, Texas on the road. They were away from their home venue for 16 straight days. Well, that can be demoralizing to a lot of teams. And so they were excited to come back and play at home. We'll probably win their conference. We'll probably be an NCAA caliber team. And they had lots of energy. And, you know, I'll give them a lot of credit. They had a really good game plan. Really good game plan, which they executed, you know, throughout the game. And we made some adjustments here and there, but really didn't start clicking until the last 5 minutes of regulation. And, you know, throughout the basketball game, you know, a lot of people tease me. They say you probably were pulling your hair out or your hair was going gray. It really wasn't during the course of the game, because it was just really me trying to learn my basketball team and understand what they were going to do in certain situations. We were mixing and matching. We played more veteran group. Tasia Butler got more minutes during that game as opposed to Felgemacher. Haley Barron got more minutes as opposed to Logan Reynolds, which is not going to be the norm. But that was just that type of game, and we had to really see what we had left inside of us going down the stretch. And, you know, it was almost like you hear tale of two halves. It was like tale of two personalities. You know, Ashley Perez she made her first 3 of the game. She missed her next 10, and then she finishes the game going 7 for 7 down the stretch. And all of her shots, you know, the 10 that she missed, I knew they were going to be misses. And the 7 that she made at the end, I knew they were going to be makes. Jasmine Wathme, you know, when Ashley started hitting some shots, it kind of opened some things up for her because they were swarming her. They were double-teaming her, sometimes triple-teaming her. And she made some tremendous plays. You know, the 2 plays that we had to cut the lead to 2 and to tie the game, the moves were unbelievable. You know, I need to give them to you guys so you can put them on the highlight film. Jasmine Wathme took off from the free throw line and finger rolled a layup and made it to cut it to 2. And then the move that Ashley Perez made to tie it, you know, I like to think my legend grows and that I was a phenomenal basketball player back in the day. And I was talking to Kirby Dean this morning, and I told him, and in all honesty, in my prime, I could not have made the move that she made to score the basket to put us in overtime. So it was tremendous, you know, tremendous resolve by these kids. Every time out, I never looked at them like they gave up. And they just battled to the point where Jasmine was exhausted in regulation, where she needed a break because she was just expending her energy on both ends of the floor. But great win. I think I've said it. It was probably one of the remarkable wins I've been associated with. I've had some that have come against, bigger name opponents or for more significance because of a championship or whatnot. But the way those kids fought, I've never been more proud of a group than I was last night and get that win.
It was the 20th time in your coaching career as the head coach of the women's basketball Dukes that your team overcame a 10-point deficit and won the ball game. And when you consider you were down by 14 with just under 8 minutes to go, the deficit gap as well as the time remaining ranked second in those 20 wins. The only other one that's better was that very phenomenal win over Old Dominion, which I'm sure you remember in 2003. I know the JMU fans remember that one as well. It came against a Hampton opponent, which is starting to tout itself as being one of the better programs in Virginia because they've had a good winning record over the number of years. You could probably handicap that for a number of reasons, of course. But, Coach, when you face, I'm getting to this point, when you face a team like Hampton as opposed to a nationally ranked squad and you win a game like this, you've had opportunities to do this before. How does overcoming a quote-unquote lesser opponent in such circumstance build the character of a team?
Well, first and foremost, I don't like the fact that we have been down by, I had to come back 20 times in my career. That's where the gray hair comes from. But it does show resolve that the fact that they will continue to fight regardless of what the situation is. But really at this point, at this stage with this team, because there's a lot of unknowns, because they get along so well, because their chemistry is tremendous, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We could be playing, a lesser opponent or a greater opponent. The satisfaction of getting wins right now is tremendous. They were extremely happy after the game. And, we're not looking at it like, okay, we could have, should have been in a certain situation. We're still figuring ourselves out. Going on the road is very tough. Again, as I mentioned, Hampton had a really good game plan, and we didn't have shots falling. It could have been one of those games where we could have packed it in and said, hey, today's not our day. We're gonna figure it out tomorrow or whatnot, but they didn't. They kept fighting. It was unconventional the way we came back. As a matter of fact, I made up 2 plays, that we were running, get the ball in bounds and running against their zone with unconventional lineups. And so we just found a way to win. And I think, I can't predict the future, but I really think we're going to look back on this game, and it's going to be a game that we look back on and say to build character. We had some kids grow up, as well as Jasmine played, as well as Ashley played down the stretch, as well as Dee Dee Griffin played down the stretch. If we gave out game balls, I probably would have given a game ball to Haley Barron because of the way that she scored 6 points. One of her threes kind of took the lid off of the basket, so to speak. She hit another timely 3 down the stretch, but it was coming up with loose balls. I was very proud of her for getting a foul one time because it was excessive boxing out of a post player, and I'll take that from her right now. But she played tremendous. I think I put her in a game probably in the third quarter, and we didn't take her out for the rest of the ball game, and she played extremely tough. It's going to be little things like that. It's going to build character for our team, but also for individuals as we move forward. I think it's really going to help us as we continue.
You mentioned third quarter. Are you getting any more comfortable with this quarter situation? And I was curious as I was listening to David Taylor make the call last night, as Chris Brooks and I have had this conversation about how it affects the rhythm of the game. Did you feel at times that inhibited your very talented team from gaining any rhythm because of the number of breaks and the quarter breaks in addition to the media breaks?
There are so many things that I do not like about the changes that I don't even know where to start. I really feel, I mentioned this to you last week, and it's a small thing, something that nobody will ever think about, but there's a stigma attached to it if a kid knows they're in their normal rotation and they don't get in the first quarter. Their demeanor changes. And it's kind of like you didn't play the first half, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to figure into this game, and it's tough. It's tough, and it's tough when you have to change possessions. The flow is not good. Timeouts are too long. You go to different venues, and the timeout situation is different every game. We go 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and I think it's 2 minutes or 2 plus, between quarters. They were going 2:30, and then it was 1 minute in between quarters, and I didn't know whether to take my time to rush to do what, in the situation. Even the referees have twice in the last 2 games mistaken and said it's not a media, and we're talking to our kids in a rushed fashion, and all of a sudden they say, oh, it's a media. And then I'm like, okay, well, I've already given them enough information. I got 2 minutes to just sit here. So it's hard. It's really hard. I'm not in favor of it. I've never been in favor of it. I don't think it speeds up the game. I don't think that it makes the game any more exciting. I don't think that it's enhanced any games that we've played in. We did get to one situation, end of overtime. We were up by 12. Hampton got the basketball, and they wanted to advance the ball. The game was pretty much essentially over, and they advanced the ball in front of their bench, and then they get a 5-second call. So I don't know if it helped them or it hurt them or if it was indifferent. I just like the way that it was. I think the game was more fluid that way. This situation, I think we called a timeout early in the third quarter with 8 minutes to go in the quarter, and from that point on, there's no more stoppages of play, which is not a good thing, because kids get tired. They get tired, and then you're trying to sub because of fatigue as opposed to strategy.
We'll turn over to other members of the media. That's you, Dave.
Just me, I guess, right? Following up on Kurt's question, probably a silly one at that, does it feel any different going into overtime after 4 quarters instead of saying I'm going to overtime after 2 halves? Does the feel and mentality going into that extra period feel any different at all?
No, not because of that reason. I think for us, I think there was 2 different personalities from both the benches. I mean, obviously we clawed to come back, and again, my fellow people at the DNR says we were taken to overtime. I would dispute that. I think we took them to overtime because we were chasing them. And so from our bench, it was jubilation, not because not any different because of the quarter or the halves, but because we fought back. And I'm sure they had some depleted attitudes because of the way we came back. So no, I just think the fashion of it really forced the attitude that we had.
How would you compare and contrast Ashley Perez? I remember seeing her last year, just her first minutes going on the court. It was kind of a bit of an adjustment period, but obviously these days with her stats, it's quite different for her. How would you compare and contrast how she's starting off her seasons compared to last year?
We had a text conversation going on after the game, and I told her I was proud of her, and her response, and this might sum it up for you, was, thank you, it means a lot. Thanks for sticking with me because I know I messed up a lot. She was really bad. She was really bad for the first part of the game, but she was phenomenal in the last part of the game. And I don't know if she can be as phenomenal as she was towards the end of the stretch, but we can't have her being as bad as she was at the beginning. We need something in between. And she's a tremendous talent. Tremendous talent. Like I mentioned before, she does some things that you just can't teach. But sometimes she gets ahead of herself, and she tries to, like I even mentioned it, I think, to David last night. There were certain points in the game where Ashley was looking for a 10-point shot. She was trying to get it back all in one possession. And it's not because of selfishness, it's because that's her way. I just want to go. I want to do whatever I can to help the team. She's a tremendous talent. She's as talented as anyone that I've ever had here. It's just a matter of her understanding that there are going to be plenty of opportunities throughout the course of the game. Just make sure you're making the best out of the opportunities. And I think that's just going to take a little bit of time because ultimately she was thrust into this new role that she has. Going into this year, she was still going to be a compliment to the CAA Player of the Year, Precious Hall, to probably one of the most talented kids in the league, Jasmine Guathme, to one of the most important players, Muff Mickens. Now all of a sudden she's thrown into the role where we're running plays for her, to get us going in a good fashion very early. And she just has to understand that there are going to be plenty of opportunities through the course of a game. Let's try to make the best out of each and every one of them. Then I think that she'll get herself off to a good start.
Overall, is that the most difficult part right now with the team, just trying to figure out how the team as a whole can play all 4 quarters and not, you have a player who can be great at the start, be great at the end, but still is trying to figure something out in the middle?
I am learning each and every one of them. And it's not what we anticipated going into the season. Going into the season, I thought I knew exactly what Muff Mickens' role was going to be, what Precious Hall's role was going to be, with Jasmine Guathme, with Ashley Perez, with Dee Dee Griffin, with all of them. And then when you have a main cog that is not in your plans anymore, like Precious Hall, everything gets changed. everything. And the fashion that it happened, when it happened, we had to bump everyone over a spot, so to speak. Even Muff Mickens. Muff's stats are probably not as good as they would have been if Precious were here because she's forced to do a little bit more. Right now, she's actually talking about her turnovers. I'm fine with them because we're asking her to do a little bit more. Normally she wouldn't try to get in the lane to force the action, where now she has to because maybe Ashley's on the bench, Precious is not there, Jasmine's a little bit fatigued, and so she's forced to try to make some things happen, which is a result of her stats not being glowing. They're still good. They're still very good. But, as a perfectionist as she is, and understanding of the game and our system, she wants them to be perfect. But she's probably just trying to make things happen for the team. So therefore, I'm not exactly sure what she's going to do sometimes when I'm asking her to score. So, throughout that game, I never got frustrated. I never, hung my head because I don't know where we're supposed to be right now. And we're continuing to figure it out. And but what I do know is I absolutely love this team. They work extremely hard, and they play as hard as any team I've ever had.
Yeah, and the silver lining seems to be that you seem to have quite a number of what I'll call unsung heroes, players that they don't really show up that much on the box score, but you mentioned them in post-game press conferences. Have you been through another season where you see a number of these weapons starting to step up, and different ones at that?
You know what? I've been blessed to have that situation for the last 3 years. Whether it's Nikki Newman, who doesn't care if she scores a point as long as the team wins, and she can be out there and doing whatever little thing is necessary. Toya Jiggets doing the same thing. Jasmine Guathme is a perfect example of a kid who's deferred so much of her career because she just wants to win and do what she calls best for the team. And this year, kids are stepping in and they're following suit. Haley Barron would just do whatever. Logan Reynolds will do whatever. I probably have a team more that I'm trying to get them to be more aggressive as opposed to telling kids that they probably shouldn't shoot certain shots, just for the simple fact that they just want to get out there and contribute as much as they can. The bench last night, we had a lot of fun watching the bench when we were watching the game on replay. And, we've got a couple people over there hurt, and they were celebrating exactly as much as the kids who were actually eligible to play because everyone just wants, what's best for this team. And it makes it a lot of fun. It makes it a lot of fun to coach them, and it's a joy. It's been that way for the last 3 years.
In the scheme yesterday that Hampton ran, you said their game plan, and they executed very well. How often how much information did you get from Muff during those timeouts about how to maybe attack what they were doing?
Well, again, we probably will see it some. We'll adjust. Hampton was conceding some of the rebounds to us. They would shoot the ball, and they would get 3 people back. They were conceding it so that they didn't have to contend with our fast break. I don't know if that works a lot if we have our half-court offense going like we did towards the end of the game as opposed to the beginning of the game, but that was their game plan, and really they played a very aggressive 2-3 zone. They were very handsy, and, not all of the fouls that we thought, were fouls were being called, and, we had to adjust to the way the game was being called, but they did a good job. They took away some of the angles that we really wanted. But I think our kids have learned from that, and we'll make an adjustment. As I mentioned, we made up 2 plays during the course of the game, and they opened up some things for us. But I think our kids, their fight and their fact that they didn't give up or hang their heads, and we'll just find another way is going to bode well for us in the future. And Hampton's going to win a lot of games, and they wanted to really control tempo. When we were down 14, it felt like we were down 25 because of the pace of the game. And Drexel's going to probably try to do the same thing to us. Ironically, Hampton's next opponent is Drexel, so that game might be 15-17. I don't know.
That's the final you're talking about.
Final. But they're very similar styles in what they were trying to do.
You mentioned you were watching the bench. Do you when you're looking at film, do you look and see what is watching the bench part of your review of a game?
Absolutely. We do. We watched the bench. We watched the bench in the Liberty game. We had, during that course, we had a couple kids who were a little bit, disgruntled is a very strong word, but they wanted to play more. They were a little bit disappointed. And their enthusiasm on the bench did not rival what Liberty's enthusiasm was on their bench. And that's something that we're known for. You know, for me, we take pride in when the referee has to tell my bench to sit down. You know, because we want to cheer for each other. We want to be happy for each other. And that's something that we've always done here. And we're there now. We're there now, and kids understand, you know, hey, if I don't like my situation, if I don't particularly like my role, the way to change it is to go out and practice and work harder and not to pout. Not to pout. I'm an expert dealing with poutiness. I have 3 daughters. And, you know, I don't deal with that pouty. And if you want to change it, change the situation on the court. And I think they understand that. And, you know, so our bench is led by Precious Hall. And she could be the poutiest one. She has the most reason to be pouty right now, and she's up on the bench and she's jumping up and down, and she's very careful that she doesn't jump on her bad leg. And you know, I'm even walking down the sideline and pacing, and one time she patted me and she said, "Coach, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right." And that was very calming. You know, I mean, that was very calming. Even though she couldn't do anything on the court, you know, that she's engaged that much into the basketball game.
Give us a little scouting report. Your next opponent will be American University. The game time has changed from 2 o'clock until 7 because of the home football game at 1 o'clock, so we appreciate you doing that. But it gives a great opportunity for fans to come out and enjoy 2 of the more successful programs here at JMU, football and, of course, the JMU women's basketball Dukes.
Yeah, I just missed Everett. I need to get a T-shirt or a helmet or something for us changing our game, because, you know, it does condense our travel time. We have to go to Olney, New York after we play American. Which is we want to get enough rest, but you know, it's for a good cause. You know, I think JMU Nation is going to be very, very excited on Saturday. Hopefully they'll be able to tailgate, have a wonderful time, go cheer on the football team to a win, a playoff win, stick around, go to an establishment, have something to eat like at O'Neill's, and then come back and come watch the Lady Dukes play. I think it'll be a really good evening. A good day for JMU, but American, if Hampton is the best winless team, American's probably the second best. You know, they played an extremely tough schedule. They're rebuilding a little bit. Very well coached basketball team, very well coached. They gave us lots of fits last year. In our 29-4 season, I think we won by 4, and Muff Mickens had to bank in a 3 from the side to secure the win. So very, very tough win. So they have our attention. But we know it's all about us, and we need to try to get better regardless if we're playing American, UCLA, or Hampton, and that's where our kids are right now.
All right, so the Dukes, they host American. Again, that is a 7 o'clock tip-off, and then they're off to Olney, New York, home of the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure, and that game is Monday night at 7 o'clock, and then they're not home again until late December. Against Davidson. Didn't realize that. But the Dukes, again, at home on Saturday. So see them now. It's your last chance before Christmas to see the Dukes play at the JMU Convocation Center. Kenny, thank you very much. Best of luck Saturday night. We'll see you there at the Combo.
Thank you, Kurt.